Might Nebraska not play any ranked teams the rest of the year? That would be bananas.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good morning, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like the players, Mazda sweats every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved.
Okay, welcome in Friday mailbag episode of the Locked On Nebraska podcast. I'm Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Connor Happer, 1620 The Zone, is with me. It is the eve of Nebraska at Maryland. Some breaking news right off the top before we get to your questions. We may have suspected it, and now we know it. The Savannah Bananas are coming to Nebraska, and they're playing a game at Memorial Stadium, Troy Dannon announced on Thursday night. How about that? June 13th, 2026, the first weekend of the College World Series up the road in Omaha.
Hey, does this just confirm that the Omaha-Lincoln rivalry, will continue? Does this mark is this like when the NFL decided it doesn't care about playing on Saturdays or Fridays anymore? The broadcasting act was just broken.
I mean, they're going to go head to head with the CWS, which is interesting. It's not really like you can do the banana game on a day off from the CWS. They are playing a game on the day before the CWS starts, Thursday, June 11th, at Little Haymarket Park in Lincoln. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of cooperation exists between these events. I know the Bananas are exploding and they have a 70-stop world tour. So there's other announcements that are taking place and have been taking place.
Yeah. I just saw Iowa. Iowa got them on July 4th, on the 4th of July.
Oh,
yeah.
Whoa. Yeah. So I would expect that because they're coming that weekend, it was not at all by coincidence. And it's just a baseball crazy time in the state of Nebraska. I mean, you already have so many of like the social media influencers now with the bat companies and such that come to the baseball village. The Bananas are going to be involved somehow in between Omaha and Lincoln. Like they'll appear at the CWS maybe on Sunday, the 14th, possibly. So there's got to be some kind of crossover. The NCAA wouldn't turn that down.
Yeah. So they're going on their stadium tour, and Memorial Stadium is one of the stops. I know I haven't seen any other ones besides Nebraska, Iowa, and then Texas A&M. They're going to go to Kyle Field as well, as announced by Trev Alberts a few moments before Nebraska did their announcement.
I predicted that you on the Westwood One broadcast are going to be interviewing a banana on the field at the Schwab.
Prediction. Kyle Perry. It would be great to catch up with Kyle again. He's a Savannah Banana.
Is he?
Yes. He
Who
would,
from
I think that's
we're derailing our mailbag here. We have lots of questions to get to, but this is too good. Who from, because they like to bring players when they go to big league cities, they'll bring like an ex-big leaguer from that city to play with the Bananas.
I mean,
So Jabba Chamberlain is going to play for the Bananas on
Alex Gordon.
Alex Gordon is going to play for the Bananas. I saw Jabba has already volunteered his services.
Yeah, I think Alex Gordon did it when they were in Kansas City. So no doubt he's in there. So whichever other former Huskers they want to get involved or Omahans or Lincolnites, they're gonna get whatever.
Can we get Shane Comine to pitch for the Bananas?
That would be awesome. He could throw 600 pitches for the Savannah Bananas.
He's like great. 50 years old.
Man, I love Shane Comine, though. That guy was awesome.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get to the mailbag. We'll talk more about the Bananas next year. That's going to be great, but I'm glad it's happening in June because it's really going to give us something to get excited about, as if it's not already a busy enough time for you and me.
Yeah.
Let's start with Ron in Merville, Tennessee. Ron is still miffed about the cancellation of the Nebraska-Tennessee series, by the way. He says, anyways, how likely is it that Nebraska doesn't face another ranked team the rest of the regular season for a chance to end the streak of 28 consecutive losses against ranked teams? Of the teams likely to be ranked, USC would have to beat Michigan and Notre Dame. Penn State has Iowa, Ohio State, and Indiana before Nebraska goes to Happy Valley. Iowa has Penn State, Oregon, and USC. Ron makes some good points. I think all three of those teams have the potential to be ranked at some point, but not by the time Nebraska plays them. How would that affect the perception of Nebraska at the end of the season as far as the playoffs or the bowl game seeding goes, especially with how Indiana fared in the CFP last year as a result of the schedule?
So 2 separate questions here. They're both good. I think we could do the playoff one first. I've
11-1. If Nebraska's 11-1,
but I think we're talking about in a world where they're 10-2, right?
Okay. Yeah, probably not getting in the playoff if you haven't beaten a ranked team at 10-2.
Exactly, and I don't think for the record, if Indiana loses to Oregon this weekend, say they get beat pretty good, and then they go and lose to Penn State down the stretch or something like that. I don't think that team gets in either. You
got to beat a ranked team. Yeah.
Right.
You have to have a ranked win.
So I think that one, I've been saying that for a while. I think that's relatively cut and dry, but it depends on some of the other stuff that happens around them. And then, right now they don't have any ranked opponents left. I think chances are Penn State will be back in that. I mean, they're not horrible. It's not a bad football team. They're not going to go 6-6 this year. They had a slip up and it was bad, but
but there are definitely some slipping, some points where Penn State's either going to prove that they deserve to be ranked by winning those games, or they're going to lose those games and it's going to take them out of the conversation. So
I think they're probably out of the CFP, but out of the rankings, out of the top 25, I mean,
they got to run the table to be in the CFP. Yeah, and then as far as the bowl game goes, it's not that's not a factor. If beating ranked teams is not, Bulls are going to want Nebraska because of the appeal of Nebraska. If Nebraska's got 9 or 10 wins and none against ranked opponents, that will reduce its attractiveness zero in the eyes of bowl suitors.
Yep, agreed. Let's go to Tim in Greenville, South Carolina. Can you help me understand how Virginia is ranked in the top 25 and Cincinnati is getting more votes than Nebraska?
They beat ranked teams. Speaking of ranked. Cincinnati beat Iowa State, which was ranked 14th, and Virginia beat Florida State. I mean,
they were in the top 10.
Yeah, they have better wins. They have better wins than Nebraska's best win is obviously Cincinnati. And I mean, it isn't all about, like, you could say, oh, it's head to head. Well, I mean, not really. Like
it's not a head to head poll. Like you
can't do that, or it'd be impossible to rank all the teams because they go round and round and round with the way
I hate when people do that. They're always like, when the AP poll comes out, it's like they highlight 2 teams, for example, Cincinnati and Nebraska, and they're like, well, if there was only a way where they could find out who's better between Cincinnati and Nebraska,
it's a tiebreaker. It's tiebreaker.
It's not about that though. It's not about like who's. It's about who's better and more attractive right now, as from a resume standpoint. Yeah.
I would look at it as a tiebreaker. If Nebraska and Cincinnati had what I viewed as equal resumes, and I was looking at putting them in the poll, I'd go and say Nebraska beat Cincinnati, so I'm going to put them ahead. But if they don't have equal resumes, then you go with the team that has the better one.
Yep, no doubt. Okay, I always get this wrong every week. Stu in Wanakee?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Wanakee? I don't know. There's a numerous towns that we mispronounce. Thank you to Ron up there in Tennessee, by the way, for phonetically spelling Merville, Tennessee.
Yeah, very good. He knows.
Wanakee, Wisconsin.
Wanakee or Wanakee, Wisconsin. Anyway, Stu is wondering, he says, no one is talking about this, but if you look at Nebraska's coaching situation from more of a corporate experience standpoint, then a weirdo scenario becomes plausible. I have no idea where this is going. I haven't read this yet. This is great. Rhule's experience is taking bad situations and turning them around. For leaders with success in this area, they tend to continue the pattern, which means it shouldn't be surprising for Rhule to leave post-Nebraska turnaround to find another challenge. He's a builder, not a maintainer. Conversely, guys like Holgorsen, who have been head coaches with mixed success, well, they're likely to seek more head coaching gigs until they can find that success. Could we have a situation where Rhule brought in Holgorsen to not only save his offense and by extension his job, but to eventually take over the whole kit and caboodle? the whole thing of Holgorsen coming in on a whim, at least initially, acting obvious to his role,
oblivious, I think. Yeah,
oblivious to his role, short term or long term, could be a smokescreen. Am I crazy to think this type of situation could be planned for, if not evolving that way?
It definitely wasn't planned. There's no way that Matt Rhule and the desperation of last year around this time was thinking about his successor when he went to build his next program in chasing down Dana Holgorsen. Rhule and Holgorsen, as we know, were talking before the season, before the season last year. So after Rhule's first season at Nebraska, and which was right after Dana had been let go at Houston. That was strictly to fix the Nebraska offense, to make the Nebraska offense better. I don't think that Matt Rhule he's now at a destination job. Like, he has jumped around and been a builder when he was at building like stepping stone programs. That's what Temple was. And that's what Baylor was to him to reach the NFL. And he's been there, done that, not going back to the NFL. I don't think he's going to Penn State. Like, it's under the surface. We got a couple questions that were hinting at that. Stu's question we chose because this was like the most complete in bringing some of this stuff together. I don't see it. So actually, there's a question from Brad, our next question that we'll get to before the break, that gets more into that. But no, I don't think he's going to look to leave. He's 50, and I believe that in the best case scenario for Matt Rhule, in his view, he finishes his career coaching at Nebraska.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him going somewhere else. I could see Rhule going somewhere else. I could see him going to Penn State. I don't know if now's the time. But I do not believe that Holgorsen was brought in for forward-thinking purpose of thinking like, oh, he could take this over one day. I think you evaluate the situation minute by minute, hour by hour, year by year, and then you kind of go from there. Right? Sure. If that situation ever comes up, then he'll pick a successor or they'll do a coaching search. I mean, if he's picking a successor, something has gone very, very right. Like, I don't think we're there yet. Chances are, if Rhule leaves, you're talking about a coaching search.
Yeah. Let's finish with Brad before we go to break in Americus, Kansas.
Cool
town. Yeah. I don't know if it exists. I guess it probably does, but look it up. Rhule seems like a man who wants to control his own destiny. Do you think he could find extra focus and energy from knowing that if his team wins in Happy Valley, he would likely be the top candidate to get that job?
I love it.
Man, we were having these discussions. Nebraska almost lost to Michigan State last week. If the fourth quarter goes different, this is not a topic. So not to say he would take it. That was my commentary there in the middle of Brad's question. Not to say he would take it, back to Brad. But if I were him, I'd want to control my option to accept it or decline it. Sorry for the long question. Yeah. So No, I don't think Rhule wants to coach at Penn State. I think he's seen what happens to coaches that go to their alma mater or places that they have too much history with, and I really don't think that he wants any part of that.
Yeah, he has definitely seen that. Although, unlike his predecessor at Nebraska, it's not much of a complicated history. I mean, he was a walk-on linebacker. Right. He wasn't a prized.
I don't think he would run into those kind of problems.
Not that kind of problem. But yeah, there's baggage that goes along with it. I don't know.
Pat Kraft could be convincing. So we're not going to just say it's an impossibility. But based on what I think I know at this point, I don't see it. Certainly not this year.
America's Kansas is just north of Emporia, so shout out to them boys over there.
Exist. Yep. All right, we'll go back to Kansas when we come back after this. Right now, a word from Mazda. This is Mazda's Moving the Game Forward segment, brought to you by those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it, because these moments do more than win. They push what's possible. They remind us to go that extra yard, shift into that extra gear, keep the game moving forward. I want to talk about a difference maker for Nebraska this season. It is Deshaun Singleton. 2 interceptions last week. He's a leader on the defense, a captain. He's a workhorse for Nebraska. He's shown that no matter the circumstances, he is set to keep moving forward. Connections like that help players and fans alike move forward, always chasing the next great moment. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved.
And a word from FanDuel, of course, football weekend coming right up on the horizon, whether it be college or in the NFL. You're going to want to get in on this action with a can't miss offer. New customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets. Can you believe that? First $5 bet, you win it, which you're going to because you're smart people. $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Think of all the possibilities with that, whether it be same game parlays or anytime touchdown scores this weekend, whatever it might be. Hop in on FanDuel. It's quick, easy, and a very easy way to add a little energy to your college football Saturday or your NFL Sunday. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel.com and place that first $5 bet today. All right, welcome back. Connor Happer, Mitch Sherman with you here on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Back to the questions. Colwich, Kansas. I'll check the map on that in a second and see exactly where that is.
But lots of questions from here.
Yeah. What should Coach Rhule focus more of his individual time on? Helping Donovan Raiola improve the offensive line or talking to Pat McAfee and making podcasts? There are things Rhule has done with his time in the last year that I'd argue have way more value, which is bringing in Butler on short notice to replace Evan Cooper and then having him set up for Tony White's departure. Bringing in Dana with 4 games left and moving on from Satterfield. Let Dana bring in wide receiver coach Shorts to replace his buddy's 25-year-old son. Bringing in Eckler and moving Foley, letting Eckler bring in Archie and Kunanen to replace players already on the roster. Good resume.
Yeah, there's more to that. Adam continues. He said those were CEO moves. Right now, It should seem obvious that something similar needs to be done with our offensive line coaching. Coach Raiola looks to be in the same spot as Satterfield and Foley, a great guy that cannot do the job himself and needs help. Finally, if no great OL savant out there can come in and help right now, Coach Rhule can dust off his cleats and go help himself. He was an assistant OL coach with the Giants in 2012, helped them lead the league in the least amount of sacks allowed with Eli Manning as their quarterback. Surely keeping Dylan upright the rest of the season can be easier than that.
Yeah, you got to let your coaches coach, man. You know, that's it. That's a story. And if they decide at the end of the year or at whatever point that it ain't good enough, then they'll decide that just like they did for the other things. But I don't think they're at that point. And they got to keep Dylan upright. But I think they think that they have the tools in house to be able to do that.
I also think they believe they have a good offensive line coach.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes we bang the drum and admit months later that we were misguided on it. And maybe that'll be the case here, but I'm not ready to make that determination about Donovan Raiola. I thought he was a good offensive line coach a month ago. I still think he's a good offensive line coach. I think he fits well with this Nebraska system. Because some of his players have had issues this year, I don't believe that immediately just goes back on him. Like some of that is on other people. Some of that's on the players themselves. So yeah, ultimately the coach, the assistant coach, the position coach has to be accountable and has a big role in some of that stuff, but it's just not where I'm at. And they are not getting rid of anyone with the last name Raiola in this program. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let's just be real.
We also just came from the era where Nebraska couldn't stop firing people and look at how it treated them. Not very well. The constant turnover is not good for the players in your program. So, I don't think anything's happening there. And then other Kansas messages from Michael in Stillwell. Fellas love the show. Listen to every episode. Quick observation. It seems to me with our personnel that we either build our offensive line to be run dominant or pass dominant, but not both. Thoughts?
I'm just going to group these with the next 2 questions that are also about the offensive line because we're going to run short on time. It's from Chad in Colorado. How much of the protection problems come down to communication and line calls, knowing who to block, and could the first true road environment with the added noise make those issues tougher to manage? And then from Vince in Napa, Happy Friday again, fellas. Thanks for allowing me to be a contributor to your podcast. Of course, Vince, if you were to apportion how much of the sacks are attributed to the line and how much is related to Raiola holding the ball too long. So
Yeah,
let's find a way to answer all of those.
Yeah, I think you just acquire and try to develop the best all-around offensive lineman you can, and piece it together. Remember, it's 5 people all working in concert together, and it's not always going to be perfect. But I know people want more. We'll see. Nebraska's first road test. I don't think about it as. I mean, Maryland's not like a super hostile place to play. There'll be a lot of Nebraska fans there too. So I don't think that should be an issue. We'll see. And then, I don't know, like a percentage on Raiola versus the offensive line or like other stuff. It's seemed to me that Dana Holgerson seemed to think that it was spread around pretty evenly in a lot of parts of the offense when it sucked for 2 quarters on Saturday.
I think it's at least 50% on the line. And then maybe you put like 30% of it or 25% of it on the quarterback, and the rest is on receivers doing their jobs to get open and be aware of what's going on within the offensive play, and on the backs to pick up unexpected rushers.
But remember too, that's also 100% of one problem. Like one problem. Like there's other things that you can do to mitigate the fact that you might not have, the ability to do some things, right? So absolutely.
That's a great point, and that's going to be a huge focus for Nebraska, not just in this game on Saturday against a good pass rush, but in all of these Big Ten games moving forward. It's not just about fixing the things that have led to it's not just about taking what you see that's wrong with the O-line and their ability to protect the passer and fixing that. It's about also adjusting and
accentuating the good.
Yeah. And we talked about some of this on the Thursday show, is getting Dylan out of the pocket to throw on the run, incorporating more screen passes. Like that stuff has been effective, and it's a great way to alleviate the pass rush.
Here's Caleb in Lincoln. Do you think Matt Rhule's rebuild is on schedule? And do you think we've finally flipped the switch on being able to win close games like Cincinnati and Michigan State? Thanks. Love the pod. GBR Caleb.
I do think that Nebraska has flipped the switch in being able to win close games. I do think that you have to take this team apart from 2021, other years, 2017. It's a different group. They have a different core of leaders, even from last year, quite a bit different from last year. And guys like Ja'Cory Barney and Sierra Wright and Vincent Shavers and Williams Winery, you can go right on down the list. Rocco Spindler. There are a lot of players who have built themselves into leadership positions, who I think are naturally confident when they get into spots in the third and fourth quarter and games are on the line, and they genuinely believe that their team is going to win. They've experienced it in the past. They've not experienced so much of what Nebraska has experienced in the past. And their attitude, when those players become the majority, when they become the voices that others are listening to in the locker room, that's when it spreads to the whole team. And I think that's happening with Nebraska.
And in essence, I think I would use the same thing to answer the rebuild question and where it's at. Like, that's what they mean by rebuild. Like, you're obviously trying to, acquire and accumulate and stack talent. But also it's about mindsets. That was the primary problem with the program, to be quite honest with you. I mean, it was broken from that standpoint. And I think they've done a really nice job of just hacking away at it, game by game. So I would say that the rebuild is very much on schedule.
Yeah. One more before the break from Ron in Omaha. When I watch this team and they're firing on all cylinders, I can't help but think we have a real chance to be in every game this year. Are the lulls during the second and third quarter enough for you? This is against Michigan State. Enough for you to question the good from this team. Have a great week, y'all. P.S. How did we feel about Elijah Judy's Spiderman celebration?
Yeah, I've been hearing some talk about this week.
It was after a sack.
I don't think I saw it for some reason. But yeah. I'm pro sack dances. That's cool. Do what you got to do.
Good. It was good. I didn't know looking at it at the time that it had anything to do with Spider-Man. This is just me. I don't know what turtles are. I don't I don't know about Spider-Man dances. Whatever.
It's great.
Go ahead.
Yeah, they won by 11, like I think the good far outweighed the bad in that game, because the good was really good and people will focus on the bad.
I think what Ron's getting at, we talk a lot about ceilings and floors, and this team has a higher ceiling, and we've seen it at times when they've played really well. The blowout wins against the bad teams. Previous versions of Nebraska would not have done that. And when this team's hitting on all cylinders, and as they gain confidence, you would hope that you'll see that kind of stuff more often as they win close games, which they've done twice this year. You'd think you will see that stuff more often where they're playing at their peak level. Like, walk across campus, watch the number 1 ranked volleyball team in the country. They tend to play at their peak level fairly often. And they also do it in the biggest moments. That's what you're looking for from any sports team. I don't care what sport it is, what gender they are. That's what you're looking for, is a team that you can get to play their absolute best when they need to do it. And that's what Nebraska's striving to do. If they can reach that level where they're playing their best in the biggest moments, then they have a chance to win every game. Yes.
Quick break. A few more questions after this. But first, a word from DoorDash, ladies and gentlemen. That sounds good this weekend. If you're staying in, it's almost the weekend, and it's time to look back and recognize the MVP on who delivered this week, powered by DoorDash. You can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving money and more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered the most. It's Isaiah Hunter, who delivered in a big way at Memorial Stadium, catching that 59-yard screen pass for a touchdown without a shoe for the majority of it. Nice job by Isaiah. When the pressure was on, he came through. No hesitation, no delay. And it wasn't a fluke either. Isaiah Hunter is on a streak. Just like Isaiah delivered for Nebraska, DoorDash will deliver on your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season long, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday and keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th.
All right, welcome back. Friday mailbag episode of the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Mitch Sherman, Connor Happer with you. We are going to finish up with 4 or 5 questions that we have. By the way, Nebraska is safely on the ground in Maryland. The Huskers landed at BWI, deep breath, on Thursday night. So they're there, and I think they got in. I have a theory. So on Thursday night, the Phillies were playing the Dodgers in the NLDS, and the Eagles were playing the Giants on Thursday Night Football. Is it possible that Nebraska structured its travel so that several noted Philadelphia sports fans within the staff could get to a place where they could get in front of a TV and watch their teams play nicely in a hotel without distractions?
Very possible. Very possible. Yes, very possible. And when you are the coaches, you can make those decisions.
Mm-hmm. There is a little bit of Eastern PA presence in that coaching staff. All right, from Patrick and Pilger. Got a question that I've always wondered about. Are away games as challenging as sometimes we make them out to be? I've heard arguments for both sides. It has to be challenging to walk into a ruckus environment. However, I know some players like playing against road games. They feel like it's nothing new.
A great question.
Very nice. Very nice.
From Patrick in Pilger.
He did it again.
Yeah.
It's not a question.
I like playing against road games.
Yeah. It's challenging.
Yeah. Should we answer that question, or should we just, let it fall?
Let's go to Greg. Yeah, it's not a real question.
Greg and Broken Arrow. Have either of you changed the game you're watching on TV just because the broadcasters are uninformed bias, or you find the sound of their voice irritating?
Yeah. This was also a nice try by Greg to try to slip something through in this one that I had to slightly edit his question. It's not there. Yeah, Greg, I have. There are some times where the broadcast can get grating, and it's a great idea to maybe turn down the sound and just watch it, in silence. Or if you are lucky enough to have a radio broadcast of the game, you can always sync up your TVs. There's these new apps that are coming out that allow you to like somehow more easily sync up the radio broadcast to the TV viewing than just like doing it with your eyes and ears. I've done it in the past. Just, you pick a moment in the game, like there's a big crack of the bat, or there's a big catch, by a wide receiver. And you it's easy to sync up, but now we have to have an app for that.
Yeah. I don't.
I don't know how that works.
I just plow through it usually most of the time. I'm never like, if I'm going to watch a game, I'm watching a game regardless of what the broadcasters are. I'll probably have complaints from time to time, but I'm not going to outright change the game. I don't think. Probably not. Here's Scott in Windsor, Ontario. It's been a fairly chaotic season so far. I like it. Chalk sucks. Do you guys find it ironically funny that we're in a 12-team playoff era, soon to be 16, and we only have 3 great teams this year, maybe 4?
Hey, that's the thing. Like, there's a salary cap in theory. There is a limited number of roster spots in comparison to the past. The major college football, is trending in a direction to be like the NFL. And what would you say about the NFL? Do they have 12 great teams or 3, maybe 4? So this is college football now. And I think it's why people have to view losses and poor performances by their teams differently than they did in the time that they grew up watching the sport.
I also don't think only having 3 or 4 teams that have a chance to win a national championship is very unique for college football. It's kind of always like that. It's just, can those teams win the requisite amount of games to get to the championship, right?
Do you think there's only 3 or 4 that could win a championship, or that there's only 3 or 4 that are great? Because could a team that's not great, a very flawed team, navigate its way through the CFP, or not? Because it requires you to win 4 very tough games.
Probably not. Not. I was sort of thinking about it the other way. Like, do we have a not great, or do we have a great team that can make its way, like a great team, right? That can make its way into the conversation simply because it's got some magic to them or something like that, and runs through the playoff. Maybe that's more likely these days. I don't know.
Yeah, I would look at the NFL as a model, and there have been times where a team gets hot, and maybe we're not ready for this yet. Maybe we're not quite at the place in college football where the rosters have been spread out enough where, like, a wild card team, a 9-7 team in the old 16 game schedule, could make a run through to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. But that day's coming in college football, where a team is a 16 seed or a 14 seed and makes it all the way to the championship game. It's maybe 5 years away, but it's coming.
Here's Tim in Goddard, Kansas, planning on bringing the family of 6, wife and 3 daughters, and a son, up to the Northwestern game. Kids are ages 7th grade through college. Is it better to find a spot to tailgate, or just take the family to a local bar or restaurant before the game to pregame?
I'd say it's weather dependent and how much you care about the weather. If it's cold, if it's rainy, which it could be on October 25th, then there's plenty of places that you can go and sit down at a local bar or restaurant. We don't know the time yet for that Northwestern game. I imagine it won't be a night game, so looking at probably an 11 a.m. or 2:30 kickoff there. So, if you have a spot to tailgate, somebody who's tailgating, you get invited, then to me that's a great option. You can't beat that scene. But if not, and you're just going to be wandering around, no, go sit down at a restaurant downtown.
You kind of get the best of both worlds there, right? If you glob onto someone else's tailgate, then you can always come and go kind of as you please. That's sort of how I do it, but I'm a grifter, I guess. Here is Sam to finish things off. While we may agree to disagree that TJ Lateef should maybe get some consideration to have a goal line package, I do think it's hard to dispute his ability to run. For the record, and then he shared some TJ Lateef highlights, which is nice. For the record, I love
against Akron.
And I think he gets too much unfair criticism and probably isn't going to give it enough credit nationally. It'll come. But I also think having a dual threat on the goal line gives you more options or threats, not always, but just in packages, especially when it comes to running. I think Harburg is not a fit because he doesn't give you the passing threat. He was the quarterback for a year and a half. So sure, he can ram it up the middle, but against a Michigan, that's not going to work. If you have a true run pass threat quarterback, along with a running back, you have to account for much more. Just my thoughts. Enjoy the podcast.
Do you think the set that Nebraska ran, that it scored its first touchdown against Michigan State, which was probably part of the script from Dana, and it included a snap to Harburg and then a handoff to Dillon, who then gave it on a little mini reverse to Emmett Johnson? You think that was a way that Dana was recognizing the fact that people were calling for TJ Lateef to get the ball in the goal line and for him to say, we got all the weapons we need right here to do this?
Maybe he listened to this podcast and
probably
thought, wow, there's a really
did.
smart red bearded man who was like, you guys should put in Harburg near the goal line. And then was like, that's a great idea. We should do that. But then have him be a decoy, basically.
Yeah. I don't think Dana pays much attention to anything that's now. We know that Rhule knows all that's being said. And he certainly knows that there was this undercurrent of fans who wanted to see TJ Lateef come into the game and replace the best player on the field. Hey, like, I'm never going to say that like it couldn't ever work. I just think that it's more likely for you to score points if you have the ball in Dillon's hands, period.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm as well. Yeah, I mean, like, it seems like I'm super against it. I guess I'm like not, but I also think maybe people are overshooting Lateef's like, you know, him in general right now. Like, there'll be a time and he'll have his time.
What if they yet? Let's just say they did it. Let's say it's a USC game and they do it, and Nebraska's struggling in the red zone, whatever. And they get down to the goal line and it's 1st and goal at the 6 in the 3rd quarter of a close game. And here comes TJ Lateef trotting onto the field, and the Memorial Stadium crowd is all excited. Look, how do you think USC is going to call a timeout or whatever? Or they got the helmet to their middle linebacker. What do you think they're going to say? Do you think it's going to catch them off guard when TJ takes off with the ball on a naked bootleg? Like, teams are going to know. It's not like you have this weapon that is unstoppable and no one has ever seen it before.
Yeah, they'd probably be like, awesome, great job. You took Dillon.
Thank you for taking Dillon out.
Yeah. Good. So, you know, we'll keep evaluating that as we go.
Okay, the next time you hear from us, it's going to be after the game. We will come at you at some point on the weekend with the reaction podcast. I'm going to take my equipment out to the land of crab cakes and turtles, and I'll figure out a place to set up shop on Saturday night or Sunday morning, and we'll all talk about what happened. So, anything else?
No.
Thanks for listening today. Yeah. It's another big moment for Locked On college football fans. Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview show. Drake Toll, Gary Patterson, Jesse Holley, Locked On's local experts all have you covered. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV.